and welcome to, I don't quite know what to call it, an interview with Nick Peall. I was about to say the How to Go TV, but it's not that tonight. It's an interview with Nick Peall. I'm Carol Godfrey, and I have the great Nick Peall with me, who I'm very excited to be interviewing. And basically, we are two different sides of the world. For me, it is almost midnight. Nick has just got out of bed. How fantastic is that? And it's what modern technology lets us do. Hi, Nick. Come and say hello.
How are you going? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's really great. We've got some questions that people have been putting in on Google Plus that we're going to ask you as we go along. It's quite a few questions coming over there. Some questions that you expect, and a couple actually quite different questions, which is really good. But first of all, obviously I know you. I've known you for a few years. We decided the other day, we actually met when you were very heavily into social media, and I was just starting in social media. But there's a lot of people out there who don't know who Nick Peall is. So tell people who you are.
Good question. You'll see already that I find it difficult to explain because there's so many different things that I do. But basically, I am a see, I can't even articulate it. I work on the internet. That's the best way I can put it. I have my own web businesses, and I teach people how to either get set up on the web or how to leverage their existing business using internet technology and online marketing methods. Plus, I'm a photographer as well, but we won't get into that today.
No, I did look at some of the photography pictures, and they are absolutely stunning, but perhaps not for tonight's audience.
No, definitely not.
Very good photographer, though, I must say.
Thank you.
Yeah, and obviously sometimes it is, and I think this is something that a lot of people, even people, you know, you've had a lot of success. We know, or I know, that you have done very, very well, and you're not like a newbie that's just starting. You've been doing this for a while, and you've had some amazing success. But it is quite difficult when you're an entrepreneur to actually tell people exactly what you do, and yet everybody says, you know, business mentors and advisors are always saying you have to be able to explain in 90 seconds or 60 seconds what you do. You know, that is a hard thing though, isn't it? Because how do you explain when you're not in one tiny little, and you know, we all know niching is very good because it helps you to find your target audience, it helps you to craft your messages. But as an entrepreneur, we usually are not in just one niche, or we don't just have one skill. So how would you say to other people, because even you there, it was like, well, I don't quite know how to describe myself. You know, how do we deal with that?
Look, you used a good word there, which is, you know, an entrepreneur. And I guess when it boils down, that's the main way I would identify myself. Now, I wear different hats, and I deal with different audiences and perform different business services. But really, at the end of the day, I see myself as an entrepreneur first. Because I've always been in it, you know, for me originally, but I also have this different business capacity that I've been, you know, operating in the last few years, which is as a mentor, and that touches on my own desire to share my knowledge and to help educate people, but also because I've been quite visible in what I've been doing in the internet marketing industry. A lot of people have kind of come forward and said, Nick, you know, we see what you're doing, or we hear about your results. Can you please teach us? And it was because of that I kind of evolved from being an information publisher on niche topics to being an educator and a mentor. But I think maybe, like in my example, I'm a bit reluctant to put a title on myself, because then that pigeonholes you. And it's good if you want to clarify to a specific audience, but because I speak to so many different people, I'm reluctant to do that, because then it almost by default it excludes everyone else, and I'm trying my hardest not to do that. But it's really difficult to say, you know, one word that explains everything. But the best way I could condense it down would be an entrepreneur and also an educator. And as an educator, that means putting out training material, coaching, mentoring. There's a few different things that happen in that space.
Cool. And I think you said something there that's very important for people to get as well, because if we just take it a little bit further on this, you have to niche and you have to focus and you have to know who you are and what your audience is. Where you were saying there, you have different audiences, and most entrepreneurs do have different audiences. I do. I have the audience which is entrepreneurs, and I help them get visible using Google Plus and Hangouts, and that is a big focus. But I'm also someone that can really help people get their head in the right place and their mindset right, because if their mindset is wrong, they can press any buttons they want, they will never see any success. But I don't market those two things at the same time. I market them separately.
Can I just say something that it's kind of ironic but also well timed that you just articulated that exact thing, because I don't know if you've been watching my wall on Facebook for the last 24 hours, but this is a discussion that we're having right now where I was communicating that in essence, what's one of the friction points in my current mentoring program is that I also deliver mindset, because in my point of view, mindset is intrinsic to the task of business success, whereas a lot of my clients and my students come to me with the assumption that success is merely the process of replicating a marketing method or a business model, and it's not. That's part of it, but if you don't have the correct mindset and the correct approach, it will never happen. So what's happened is that I've in essence, I've combined them together as almost like the mindset stuff is a bonus. Sorry, I just put my drink down. As is a bonus, but it doesn't always reach its intended target, and it's not always received well either, because as you'll probably know, I'm famous for being brutally honest and just calling a spade. That's who I am. I don't like to muck around, but a lot of people they can't accept that, and they don't have the capacity to put it constructively and a way to learn. So this is something that I've again been talking on my wall about, and people are chiming in. And just when I woke up this morning, the first thing that I thought was the solution is, as almost always, it's internal, it's not external. So rather than me trying to figure out how can I take different approaches or make people understand, I need to accept that pure and simple, my core promise is business mentoring. I need to focus on that and not add the mindset stuff in. And if I do want to continue teaching people mindset, then it's probably best if I do separate that and I position it just as mindset. But I should also, before doing that, go and get a lot more education on the process of teaching mindset, because what I'm trying to do is share my mindset lessons, but we all learn differently and we're at different stages of our evolution. So that's a good thing in my point of view, because now I've got a new challenge and I've got something new to learn. But yeah, just literally half an hour ago, I came to this exact decision that I need to separate the two and stop confusing the two, no matter what my justifications are. And so that makes me feel a lot better, and I know that that means my business mentoring program will continue without that friction point. And that was the original thing. I was watching the reaction it was getting from some of my students. Most of them appreciate it, but some of them are basically, they argue and they get combative when I bring up these things, which are really just I'm trying to highlight what in their mindset is keeping them from success, but also keeping them in a failure loop. And it just seems to be too personal. And so rather than blame the world and say, oh, you should have listened, I have to take responsibility and realize that that's not part of the business mentoring service anyway. And I can, through cause and effect, I can remove that myself to avoid further friction. And if I want to deliver it, then find better systems and better ways of delivering that.
I think that's really interesting that that's what you've been sort of, you've had that as a topic on your wall, and there I go and bring it up. Because by the way, everybody, absolutely none of this is scripted, pre-planned or anything. We are just going with the flow tonight.
Yes.
So it's just a conversation, which is really great. But it's also, you know, it's good to hear your perspective on that. And what I think is really great is that you can sit there, somebody who, those people that know you are very successful in what you do. And I think it is fantastic for people that are listening in to know that even people that you think are right up here and know exactly what they're doing, they have to make changes as well. They have mindset shifts. They have things
Yes.
they have to look at. So, you know, whether you're right at the beginning or whether you are way, way ahead, or I say ahead, it's not really ahead, but whether you've been there for a long time, you've seen a big level of success and you've achieved lots, there is always something new to learn. There is always something to tweak, and there is always something that doesn't quite work that you have to get over.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I find that even people up the top, as we say, are often very, very good at their specific task or their niche, but will often be lacking in other areas. And so rather than point the finger, I'll just talk about myself. You know, I've spent so much time and energy in the past, you know, decade and a half on my career, and what happened was that you know, in the past few years, at least in the internet marketing industry, it's been visible, you know, what I've been doing and the outcomes of my projects and the popularity of them, shall we say. And so I've gathered a tribe and a following of people around the world that that know me because of that. But, you know, if I practice full accountability, I've also got to admit that at the pinnacle, at the very peak of, you know, if we look back at 2011, where I was kind of prolific and my name was everywhere, my product was everywhere, and a lot of the big guys up the top were promoting me, I was also deficient in many personal areas of my life because I'd neglected them. And there are also a lot of personal and spiritual lessons that I'd been ignoring for the longest time because I'd focused on business. And the universe has a way of bringing you back into alignment. And so I was forced to learn a lot of lessons, and I'm very grateful that I got the chance to do that. And I have grown a lot since then, but it's a continual thing. And I think this is something intrinsic to being an entrepreneur, and that's quite a loose term, but the most successful entrepreneurs that I see have the same desire to continually improve and to continually learn and grow and look for new challenges. So that's what drives me. I know that if I'm standing still and I'm not learning or I'm not challenged anymore, I almost slip into depression. I don't feel like I have purpose at those points in my life, so I'm continually learning. And being an educator, often a lot of the time the learning exercises are projected, and so I'm putting them onto people to watch it happen, but I've also got to remember to reflect upon myself and look upon myself and to constantly take critique from everyone, not just those more successful than me. I can learn something from everyone, so I try to keep focus on that and not just business, if you get what I mean. It's the balance there.
And I think that's a very important thing, that, you know, there is a balance. It's very easy, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and especially if you sort of like basically work on your own, you're not in a company with lots of employees. It's very easy to, and in a way, I believe it's right that you mix your life with your profession, but you have to be able to also take time out for yourself as well as do the work side of it. I mean, I think sometimes people get it confused and they think their personality should change in and out of work, which to me is like, well, that's not the real you then. If you're like that out of work and you're like that in work, there's something not quite right. But you do still have to know the difference.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And with business people, what we tend to do is at a young age, somewhere in our mid to late teens, we actually start to define ourselves as career people, corporate boys, entrepreneurs, and we get so focused on that that we almost become a different person, even though that's technically who we are. You know, when we're at the pub with our mates or at home with our mothers, we don't speak in corporate terms, and we don't project so much arrogance and ego and try to control and dominate a hierarchy structure. So I just try to be definitely balanced, but also congruent, so that when I speak to someone in the business community and I speak to someone, say, at church or someone at the shops, I am more often than not consistent. I guess there is still variations in the business world because you've got to use different linguistics, but I'm pretty sure, and folks that know me best will probably agree, that I am quite consistent. You know, what you see is what you get with Nick. I don't try to wear, you know, masks or put out facades in different situations anymore. I have been guilty of that in the past. So now it's just like what you see is what you get, and that's because mostly I've gotten to a point now in my life where I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I can be confident enough just to say what I believe in and not be affected by how people react to that. I care what people think, but what they think and how they react to it doesn't affect my impression of myself or my self-worth. Yeah.
And I think that is great. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go over and have a look at some of the questions and bring some of the questions in, because we've promised to answer people's questions and we always do what we promise. So I'm going to go over.
Yes.
Now, we've got quite a lot of questions, so we're not going to get to ask all of them. So I'm going to pick from each person's. I'm going to pick maybe one of theirs, and then we'll see how much time we've got still to go. So let's just have a look. This is a question that sort of comes up a lot when people are talking to or want to ask a question of someone that has seen a level of success, has been there, has got there, has worn the t-shirts, and there's several people have actually asked the same question, but in different ways. And it's basically, if you were starting now, would you take a different approach and end up somewhere other than where you are now? What would this is like a two-prong, because that's one part, and the other way that it's being asked is, if you could start again now, what advice, or if somebody else was starting now, what advice would you give them? So there's a bit of a two-way there. Would you do anything different, and would you be anywhere different to where you are now? And what advice would you give to people that are just starting?
Okay. Good question. Even though we did discuss this is the most common question that comes up. If it's a common occurrence, then obviously a lot of people are thinking about it. And it is a valid question. It's just because I get asked it so much, and something in me doesn't like repeating myself, that I almost resist it. But I'm going to give you full attention. And I think it was Sue that perhaps posed that question on the in the comments of the Hangout. So thank you for the question. I've actually been thinking one,
but there's a couple of others. Sue was the first one, and there's a couple of others since then that have asked almost the same question as well, which is why I picked on that question.
Yeah, gotcha. So thank you for everyone that did post that in. I've actually been thinking about that in my sleep, and it was one of the first things after the other thing I mentioned before. One of the first things I thought about when I woke up this morning, and it dawned on me that this is actually completely relevant, because what people don't know is that I am actually starting from scratch again, like right now this month. And so for those of you that don't know me or haven't seen me for a while, I've actually had the last year and a half completely away from business. And so I've been developing a new training program and polishing that, and mostly taking time to reflect and grow and, you know, sit at the beach. But I am actually starting completely from scratch this month, and so I know how that feels. It's not just newbies, for example, that are starting over and over. this is something to do with um, human beings in general. And I was speaking to someone about it last night, where if you're constantly going in startup mode, it's actually a negative loop, because it feels good to come up with a new business idea, and it feels good to launch a new business, and it feels good to have all these fresh things happening, but then they get to a point where it becomes difficult, or it's no longer enjoyable, or it's stirring up uncomfortable emotions within them, like thinking about failure. Is this going to work? And so they quit, which feels good, and then they go and look for another idea which feels good, and then they start that which feels good, and people end up chasing the buzz, but then years will go past and I'll think, why don't I have any success? It's basically because of lack of follow through, the absence of a holistic, complete, thorough process, but they're also chasing the buzz. So if you're one of those people, don't feel alone. We've all been through it. The only difference between me when I was doing that and me now is that I have the process and the model, which has been proven, and I dedicate myself to following through. And I also understand that it's actually the last 5% of a project where you get your results. It's not in the first 95%, and this is something that people don't quite get. So just wanted to put that out there. But given I am starting from scratch again, I am doing the same thing as I've always done, because my model works, but I am also doing a few things different, which is, when I look at my previous product and training program, there were a few very key deficiencies and some problems in there, and because I'm so analytical, I've outlined those things and endeavored to evolve and to learn the ways to either improve those or to mitigate those risks. So specifically this time round, rather than be my usual control freak self and try to do absolutely everything, I'm systematizing this time, and I'm delegating more this time, and I'm purposely implementing automation in my business, because at the end of the day, a lot of us basically have high-paid, self-employed jobs. It appears like a business, but we're completely tied to it, and a lot of our income is tied to this hourly thing. Even though it's one-on-one and we're making large amounts of money, it's not really that different to someone working in a company, in that you are tied to an hourly type commodity. And I'm not complaining about that personally, because I love that. I love the one-on-one, so I don't ever want to take that out of my business. But you can't scale that, because at the end of the day, there's only so many hours you can work. And once you've figured that part out, there's only so much you can charge per hour. So even when you're charging thousands of dollars per hour, it's still finite. And this is the internet. We're supposed to be practicing and advocating leverage, and so to have true leverage, you've got to have systems and automation. And this is something that I don't know why, I just really haven't practiced it in the past. Even though I understand it and I teach it, I haven't practiced it. So this time around, there's more systems, more delegation, and true automation, and that's what will balance out my one-on-one pay-for-time business model.
Cool.
So that's the first one. The second question, sorry, I've forgotten it already.
The second was, if somebody else was starting from scratch, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to get started? There's a couple of questions that have come in with that sort of a question, and some people have said, how would you go about getting your first consulting client? What would you say to somebody that is very new? Where should they start, and what do they do first? Those sorts of questions, which is all sort of another, again, in a lot of ways, and I didn't laugh, but sort of you read the questions, and questions are almost identical. They're written in different ways, but there are so many people that are asking the same questions. I mean, one question that I was going to ask you right at the beginning was, okay, how do I make $1 million in the next 30 days? And then I thought, nah, that's not what we're about, so I'm not going on that one. But this question does come up, and it comes up from people that are right at the beginning, but also very, very similar question. You know, someone that is, they've been going for a while, but they're not quite seeing the success they want. They're getting stuck somewhere. You know, what do I do next? Well, I've got this platform and that platform. Where do I start? How do I know what to do and when to do it? That was a bit of a
Yeah.
mouthful, but you got it.
No, I do. I do. Thank you for clarifying that. I see it perfectly now, and I'll use me as an example, as advice of what others can do. So almost almost always in the past, when I would start a new venture or I would be planning to launch a new business, after I'd scribbled out all the details and done the mind maps and the projections and everything, I would almost always revert to the same pattern, which was look for a business partner to team up with in order to launch. And I've learned now the hard way that there's very, very, very few examples in the world of a true business partnership. It's almost always completely unfair. One person is always doing more work. One person is always sitting back, taking advantage of the other one, and really taking revenue share that they don't deserve, no matter how they justify it. You know, I did this at the start, I did that at the start. That doesn't matter. You know, Seth Godin teaches this, is that it doesn't matter who did what at the start. It's about the ongoing. So you can't just, for example, spend a few hours up front and then have the other person work, you know, hundreds of hours per month for months or years in advance, and then, you know, still expect an equal share. So I no longer do that, but in order to get to that point, I had to realize that the reason why I was always looking for a business partner, even though there's different ways of justifying it, like it's good to have someone there, accountability, and you're bouncing ideas and brainstorming, those are valid, but what it really boils down to is self-worth. And I did not have enough self-worth to realize, you know what, every single business that I've ever started and every single partnership that's, you know, been successful was literally because of me. It wasn't because of the other person, and I just couldn't see that. And so I had to have enough faith in myself and enough confidence in myself to say, you know what, I'm just going to go this alone this time and not depend upon the safety net of the other person. So I don't do that anymore. And if anything, I'm completely opposed personally to business partnerships moving forward. If ever a proposal came up where it was a true partnership and they were bringing as much to the table as I do, then I'd consider it. But those people are very rare. And people like me that do bring so much to the table are doing it for themselves anyway. They're not looking for partnerships. So I had to learn that. And hopefully others can, you know, get some wisdom from that. But what is it that I would do this time around, which I have done this time around? Before I, you know, months before this point where we're at right now, rather than run around looking for a business partner, I went and selected a business mentor. And so that's where I put my focus, and that, you know, that dynamic, that relationship, I invested that into a mentor. So for everyone else out there that wants to know how should they do it starting from scratch, basically go and get a business mentor, which is different to a business coach. You've got to have someone that really can, you know, walk their talk. They've done it many times. They've got experience and results helping others get launched, and basically they've got a bunch of case studies and success stories and happy customers behind them, rather than a trail of destruction. And so for those out there that are truly, truly serious about launching a business, which is different to fiddling with a startup or playing with an idea, if you're truly committed and dedicated to launching a business and getting amazing profits and results, the number one thing you should do is go and get a mentor.
And that is actually, somebody has asked the question, and it's Tom. Tom Crawshaw has no, it wasn't Tom, it was Emma, has asked, who is Nick's mentor? Does he have a mentor? So you've just answered, yes, Nick does have a mentor. And
I do. I do. His name is Kevin Nations. So I met Kevin, what was it, almost 2 years ago, and it was at the height of my previous program, and I was flying around the world a lot doing public speaking, and a buddy of mine in LA called me up and he said, Nick, we've got a mutual friend, Bedros, and he's like, Bedros has got his marketing event on this weekend, and basically Frank Kern's going to be there, and I know you love Frank Kern, so if you want to, have a sit down and meet him, get over here. So, like I bought a plane ticket, I jumped on the flight and flew to LAX, and with, time zones and sleep deprivation and the rest of it, I got off the plane at LAX in the morning, hired a car, went to Costa Mesa, which is down near Newport Beach, and I think it was day one of the seminar, and they were already on stage speaking, and Josh said, all right, Nick, you've got to be down here for lunchtime, and then, we'll introduce you to Frank, and we'll hang out. And I thought, great, and I was dead tired, and so I decided to have a little snooze in the hotel, and I'm pretty sure I set my alarm. Anyway, I ended up waking up and it was dark, and I didn't know where I was either, and it took me forever to kind of, get my brain functions back, and then it dawned on me, okay, I'm in LA, I've come to LA to meet Frank Kern. Oh, that's right, oh, bummer. And so I'd flown all that way to meet Frank, and I'd slept through the entire day and woke up, like at 2 a.m. the next morning. So that was that. But anyway, I was at the after party. I did get to meet Frank in the end, but I was at the after party, and there were two people standing near the bar on a table, and it was a fitness marketing event, so there's like personal trainers and fitness models everywhere, and basically I made a beeline for these two people and struck up a conversation, and her name was Natalia and his name was Kevin, and Natalia is Mrs. Kern, and Kevin, when I was talking to him, I didn't know him from a bar of soap, and so I was like, so man, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I work in the marketing world. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, have you ever heard of Frank Kern? I'm like, I love Frank Kern. And he goes, yeah, I'm his business partner. And I was like, no, you're not. Frank doesn't have a business partner. And I was just oblivious, I didn't realize that he had. And so I was like, huh, interesting. Anyway, we kept in touch through Facebook, and I watched what Kevin was doing in the industry. And so you fast forward to the end of 2012, just a few months ago, when I decided, all right, I've got to get back into business now and launch this thing. Out of all of the possible options, in the internet marketing world, I knew that Kevin was the right guy, and so we had a bit of a conversation. And you can't just buy your way into Kevin's program; you have to be accepted. And I was completely honest and accountable. I laid it out on the table, and he already knew my successes and what I'd done in the industry, but he was really looking for, is Nick going to walk in, with an ego like he's the man and not learn anything, or is he going to be humble? Is he going to admit his mistakes and be a student? And that's the capacity I was in and I'm still in. And so I was fortunate enough that he let me in, and like every single day I'm amazed at how great of a mentor and how much of a true leader Kevin Nations really is. And I know they throw that word guru around, and I personally despise the word guru. Any true leader will also feel the same way. But in my opinion and in my experience, Kevin Nations is a true guru in that he's a master. He brings so much to the table. He's so learned. He's so skilled, so experienced, and I draw from him what I need specifically for me. But in our mastermind family in Team Nations, there are some really, really big names from the internet marketing world, and we all turn to Kevin to mentor us specifically, not on how to start a business. We know how to start a business, and making money is child's play. we go to him for evolution. So he teaches us how to evolve and how to grow and how to reach the next level. And so that's who my mentor is.
Cool stuff. I love the way you said there about evolution and building and growing, and it's not. But something you said there that some people who are listening will potentially be thinking, yeah, okay, it's all right for him. You actually, near the end of that, you said making money is easy. Now, I know there's a lot of people that making money is easy, and there's also an awful lot of people. In fact, we know there are more people for which making money is really not easy. It's a hard slog, and they bust their gut, and they're working 100 hours a week, and they're doing this, and they're trying social media, and they're trying Pinterest, and they've got a store up. There's one lady on the questions who's got a store on Etsy, and there's somebody else with Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and now we've got Google as well, and they've got offline marketing and Hangouts and webinars and all this stuff, and then they hear somebody say making money's the easy bit, and it's like, what? How can you say that? What advice would you have for people that do not see making money as easy? They see it as, this is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. What would your advice be to them?
Okay, two things. The first is you need to go through a process which is evaluating the relationship you have with money. And that's quite vague, but really what it boils down to is we have preconceived notions about money, and they're almost always self-limiting beliefs that were put upon us by our parents. And I'm not blaming our parents, but I'm just stating the facts. And so, you'll remember, our mothers saying things like, oh, look, money doesn't grow on trees, but it does. It's everywhere. And, money's hard to find. No, it's not. It's everywhere. Or, only bad people get rich. No, they don't. I know a lot of really, really good spiritual people that are rich. For example, Mother Teresa was a millionaire. She wasn't broke. She was rich. So we've got all these self-limiting beliefs that we learn along the way. And it made sense to our parents' generation because, like they had to experience the Depression and recession and famine and all these things. So their belief system is valid at a previous point in time. At this point in time, there's so much abundance in the world. There's so much opportunity in the world, and a lot of that is because of the internet. But there's money absolutely everywhere. And so if you look at it the right way and you evaluate your self-limiting beliefs and then smash them, remove them, you'll find that money now flows to you. And this is, when you think about it, I don't want to get too deep, but in the sense of energy, money's always trying to flow to us. It wants to be with us, but we either push it away, or when it gets to us, we throw it at the wall and we don't hold on to it. So there's all these different beliefs. But so that's that. But then, so that was mindset I was talking about. Now in the literal physical process of making money, the reason why some of us can do it effortlessly and why most people out there are struggling, so to speak, is because they're not actually spending their time on money-making tasks, and they don't understand out of, say that 100 hours, which of those are directly contributing to profit. And so they're confusing activity for action, and they're doing all these things in hope that it's going to make money. But from our point of view, because we know the exact processes that generate money or allow money to flow in, that's what we focus on when we need to, and the rest of the time is spent elsewhere. Whereas I see a lot of folks out there, and I've dealt with a lot of people now on the noob level, that they just don't know, they don't understand the process, and so they're trying Facebook and Pinterest and Google and this thing and that thing and all these things, and they think, all right, if I do 10 things, then that's going to be 10 streams of income, but it's not. And so I'm not saying those platforms won't make money, because you can make money anywhere and everywhere. It's understanding the exact part of the process or the mechanism that contributes and produces money. So it's kind of like 80-20, or it might even be 90-10. What people don't realize is that we focus on the 10%, whereas they focus on the 90%. And the 90% will produce 10% of your income. But if you focus on the 10%, that produces 90% of your income. And it's true. It's hard to see that if you're stuck in the situation. You know, you can't see the wood for the trees. But from my perspective, that's what I feel is the difference between us and them, so to speak. If you're, it's this simple. If you're finding it hard to make money and you're unsuccessful at making money, it's because you're doing the wrong things. But if you keep replicating that same process in different niches and different areas, you're not going to get a different outcome. It will always be the same outcome. And that's why some of us can go to different industries and niches from scratch and make money, you know, on day one, or at the very least in the first week, because we understand which part of the process produces the money and which part doesn't. And so we focus on, you know, the 10% first. And then the other 90% we almost ignore, but we'll do some of it. But again, it's about focusing on the correct thing. Let me use an analogy. Let's say that money is a cake, and what people are trying to do is bake a cake, okay? So you can't bake a cake, aka make money, right? You can't bake a cake by going into the kitchen, taking out the flour, the eggs, the sugar, the milk, and then going into the garage and sweeping it and cleaning your car, right? And this is what people are doing. Then they're like, why don't I have a cake? Because you weren't in the kitchen and you weren't baking it, and you didn't do anything with the ingredients, and you didn't put it in the oven. You were outside mowing the lawn or talking to the neighbor or in your car or walking the dog. Do you get what I mean? They're doing all these things that do not produce the cake. But then they're wondering, why don't I have a cake? And that's the best way I can put it.
I love that, and luckily I was muted because I have an incredibly loud laugh, and nobody would have heard us saying as I was laughing there. But you know, it is so true, and I think, I don't know whether you agree with this or not, but for me, I see people that are trying every platform because somebody has told them, you need to be on Facebook, you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on Pinterest, you need to be on Hangouts, you need to be on this, and people are spreading themselves so wide. And like for me, I used to spend most of my time on Facebook. 98% of the people I ever worked with in the first year of my business came from Facebook. Now I actually spend 98% of my time on Google Plus because I know how to use it. I have spent my time researching it. I know it is going to raise me in the search engines. People are going to find me. What I'm doing, the Hangouts live on air, I am connecting with new people that don't already know me, because on Facebook, the people I'm connected with do know me, so I don't need to spend all my time over there going, hi, I'm Carol Dodsley and I do this and I can help you like this, because they know what I can do. So I'm spending less time there now. I think I have a Pinterest account somewhere in the world. I really can't remember because I don't focus on that because I'm seeing results elsewhere. Twitter, I have a Twitter account. I post the odd thing on Twitter, but I don't spend my time there because I don't have enough time to work on every single platform. So I'm very focused on where I am, but I'm also focused on where the way of connecting that I believe my target audience will enjoy and will connect to, which is real people talking to real people through Hangouts, which is why I think every business should start using Hangouts, unless they have so much business they don't need to connect with real people. But also what feels good for me, because I love doing things like this. I love teaching. I love being on Hangouts. I love being out there with people. So for me, this is the right way that fits to me and my audience. And it's also what I teach, so I have to walk my talk. But people are trying to be on too many, and yes, you need this wide reach, but you need to have one particular focus, whether that is online, offline, wherever it is. There has to be one particular bit that you spend more time on, and don't give up on it and flit around from an island hop all over the place thinking you can drop a little bomb here and a little bit of notice here and it's going to put it together. Now, I don't know if
Mm.
you agree with that or not.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And my logical brain just came up with something then which articulates it. Now, I believe that, and we're talking about the context of, you know, the internet marketing world here and online entrepreneurs. Most people have the false belief that in order to make money, you need to find or learn or buy a money-making method, as if to say, you know, you do this thing and you put it on this platform, and you do this thing and you push a button, and then that equals money. And it's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. I agree it's been sold to the industry by everyone up the top that, you know, it's so simple and here's this formula and you push a button, but they're really tapping into the underlying psychology, which is the difference between dreamers and entrepreneurs. Dreamers actually believe that all they need is this one money-making method, and when they plug it in, it's going to produce profits. It won't. That doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist. The difference between that mentality and us that, you know, consistently get results and find success is because of our approach. Not only have we completely given up on this whole, you know, get rich quick, push button type mentality, we're problem solvers. It's that simple. That's the difference. We are always out. So we can go to any industry, any country, any platform on the internet and make money because our process and our brain knows that in order to make money, you have to serve people and you have to add value and you have to solve problems. But most people in internet marketing, they're not looking to solve a problem except for their own. And why would someone else give you money for you solving your problem? So again, it's all wrapped up in that mindset. But the lesson is this: it doesn't matter where you go. If you have the capacity to observe a collection of people or an industry, and through polling or statistics find either a common problem or one big problem and then solve it, you're adding value and you're helping people's lives. And when you do that, money will always follow. So the funny thing is that none of us are actually chasing money. What we're actually doing is looking for as many people as we can to help and to solve their problems. And that's why I believe, plus a lot of business practices and methods that go with it, but that underlying intention is always to solve people's problems, to deliver solutions, to add value, and to help people's lives. And that's the difference.
And I think that is something that is so key, even for people that are really struggling to find the next penny to pay their bills. If they are focused purely on how do I make money, how do I get more money, they're forgetting that their real focus should be how can I help somebody today? Because, you know, no matter who you talk to, and I've interviewed a lot of very successful people, it's about the balance. It's about exchanging value for value. It's not about chasing what you can get back without thinking about, well, actually, you know, and we're all giving value. If we are really in business and we are really offering something that will solve a problem, we're all doing it, but too many people are actually focused on the money. I want this instead of this is, you know. And I know for me, when I'm sitting here, for me, when I'm trying to sell, because a lot of people find selling is icky, and I find selling icky, but if I'm focused on I am offering you something that I know is really going to help you. I can sell ice to Eskimos because I know they need the ice right now because there's a shortage. But if I'm focused on, I'm offering you something that I'm not really too sure whether it's going to help you or not, but I want your money, I can't sell anything. And people can feel that as well. And I think people, you know, although we're talking about systems and processes and you need to know which platforms to go on, you need to know how to use them, you need to know how to press the buttons, but your real focus has to be on who are you adding value for, who can you go out and help that is looking for the help, and therefore they're going to want to give you an exchange in return. And some people say, but there's so many people out there want it for free because there's all this free stuff, and it's like, yeah, because they're not the people who are looking for that exchange. So go find a different audience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good, and you made a good distinction as well, where a lot of people, for example, are running around trying to find a hot niche, all right, and thinking that if they find a hot niche, then anything they do in that niche is going to magically produce money. That's not true. Whereas us, we can go to any niche, doesn't matter if it's hot or what, and evaluate basically supply and demand, competitive analysis. And if we can see that there's enough demand for something and not enough supply, or maybe there's supply but not quality of supply, then we'll go in there and do a better job and basically give the people what they need. That's what I've said it's all about all along, give the people what they want. And when you can do that, and therefore solve a lot of problems and help a lot of people, and fix a lot of issues, then the money will always follow. There's a few little caveats in there as well, because if you've ever read The Go-Giver, it basically says you should. There you go. It's a great book. It's a great read. I love that stuff.
I've interviewed the author of The Go-Giver, or one of the authors, Bob Berg.
Okay, there you go. I've seen Bob on social media actually, and he seems very down to earth, very genuine, answers people's questions willingly, and so he definitely walks his talk. But kind of like The Secret, it doesn't explain the missing ingredients. So you can't actually just go out and help a bunch of people with everything and anything and expect to make money. It doesn't work that way. If you truly want to help people, then great, go out and do it, because it makes us feel good, right? So that's our reward. But if you want to help people and produce a profit, you have to focus on people that have the capacity and the ability to spend money, and then you've also got to be solving problems that either get them a return or help them get out of a situation that is costing them either money or loss of income, if you get what I will. So some people don't get that little bit there, and kind of like The Secret, you can't just sit here and use the power of attraction and make something appear. You've got to go out and do it also, and they don't talk about that in The Secret. They just go, if you think it, it will happen, and you have to take action, and you also have to have a level of sacrifice and commitment and dedication, and so you can intend it and you can go and take action, but that doesn't even guarantee a result. You've got to make sure that you're focusing on the right things, which is what I was saying before with like 80-20 or 90-10. You've got to make sure that you're focusing on exercises and people that have the capacity to produce a profit. You can't just go out and help 100 people and solve all of their problems and then somehow expect to make money. So there's always little caveats to it.
Absolutely. I've just been having a look again at the questions, and I love this question, and this is a question that doesn't come up that often, and Tom Crawshaw that's asked it, and I thank you, Tom. I think this is a great question.
Hey, Tom.
Nick, what is your morning ritual and why do you do each task? I think that's a great question.
Clarify each task. I'm meaning what task do I do in the morning and then why?
I'm guessing.
Is that the same question or is that two questions?
No, he's put it in as one question. What is your morning ritual? And then in brackets, why do you do each task? So potentially, what do you do as your morning ritual and why do you do those things is what I'm guessing that Tom is asking.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. My morning ritual, it depends on the day. So, for example, my balance on business and lifestyle these days is very, very different to back in the days of FBX, where I was basically a slave to my computer, and that tied into, me being a workaholic, me having ADHD, me having OCD, me wanting to be an overachiever, and so there was no morning ritual. It was Groundhog Day. I was always tied to the computer. Those days are long gone. So now my current business and lifestyle means that on Monday morning for the AM and on Thursday morning I work. So whether that's dealing with clients on Skype or sitting down writing copy or whatever needs to be done happens Monday AM and Thursday AM. So from the time I wake up until about maybe 11 or even 12 midday, I have completely devoted and allocated myself to doing those tasks. Now, outside of that, I don't work, and so I go to the beach, I ride my jet ski, I take my dogs walking. I spend a lot of time basically in the ocean. So those bits you're probably not interested in, but on work days, Monday AM, Thursday AM, I'll admit it, I do start my day with Facebook, and I don't know if that's the best way to start your day, but I do it intentionally where I have a daily ration with Facebook, and I don't allow myself to just be consumed by it and leave it open and constantly checking. And so I spend, anywhere from 20 minutes to maybe an hour in the morning when I'm still in bed on my MacBook, and catch up on messages, read notifications, look at what people have posted on my wall, and then that's it, done. And so I get out of bed, feed my dogs, give them a cuddle, play with them for a bit, come here into the office, turn the computer on, completely focus on work-related stuff and clients. And then, like I said, by about 11 or 12 at the latest midday, I turn everything off and I walk out the door and I go and look for things to do, and that's my balance there. So then, how do I answer the question about the tasks? This will actually relate back to the 90-10 I was saying before, because I've removed 90% of activity and I'm focusing on the 10%, which is action. Those are the things that I spend my time on as my morning ritual, and I don't waste time or focus or energy on anything else. And then, of course, once those are done, it's very clear, well, I could go back to spending the rest of my day on the 90%, but because that 90% doesn't produce an income and it doesn't add any value to my customers, I choose not to do it, and I choose to use that time for me and my friends and family and my dogs, and that's where I'm at now. So I hope that explains it. Maybe Tom was looking for something that he can model off or something that he can action himself. And there's no one size fits all, because we're all at different stages of our evolution and we have different types of businesses. But maybe if you could look at it this way, Tom, if you could perhaps write a list of everything that you do in a day from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, or at the very least from the time you turn on the computer to when you turn it off. Write all of those things down, keep a log of them, and once you've done that, have a look at which of these is actually directly producing an income. Not you hope that it will or someone told you it will. I mean, you can prove without a doubt, emphatically, that this will either produce income or produce new leads or produce an outcome for your clients. Then those are the things you should be working on, and you'll find that it will be either 80-20 or 90-10, and you've got all these other things that you've spent your day on which really aren't having an impact or producing anything. So you can either remove those or lessen those, but at the very least you need to focus on the things that are going to get a result and produce either results for your clients or profits for yourself.
And I think what you've just said there is also, it's for the people that is saying, well, what do I do as a newbie? What do I do? I've got stuck in my business. I've got to a certain level and now I don't know where to go next. It all boils down, I believe, no matter where you are, to the same things. You have to focus on the right stuff, and you have to make sure that everything that you are really spending your good time on is the right thing that will produce income. And if you're further down the line and you're an established business that has seen some good profits, but you've got to that, you know, everybody gets to that sort of level where it's like, oh, I want to go further and it's not working and we've got stuck and now what do we do? You know, you have to think about that, and you have to think about, well, you can look back and say, well, which bits did produce income? Do they still work? Can we recreate what we've already done? And someone that is new, you've said during our interview today that, you know, basically get a mentor, get someone who can help you take the right steps for you, because for one person, the right step will be go and write.
Can I just jump in? Sorry. I'm going to leave for 20 seconds, and can you keep talking and I'll be back?
Okay, right. So my guest for the day has just left for 20 seconds, and now I've got to try and think what I was saying. Oh, yeah, and I was saying, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a starter, if you a little bit down the line and you're sort of seeing a little bit of a response, or whether you're further down the line, or whether you're further down the line but you really aren't seeing any response, and you're spending every day trying to do all these things that everybody else has told you are going to work. If things are not working, if you are not seeing, now it doesn't mean that things are easy. It just means if you are not seeing the results you want to see, you have to look at how you're spending your time. And if you don't know how to spend your time and nothing you have tried is working, one thing that I hear people say is, nothing ever works. Nothing's going to work. I'm doing all this stuff. Nothing is working. Well, actually, you haven't tried everything, because if nothing's working now, obviously what you're doing isn't the right thing for your business. But it could be that somebody else is teaching it. And this is one of the things I try and do, especially on my Hangout training. I try and talk to people about different business models. If you're a speaker, you won't use Hangouts in the same way as you will if you are a teacher. If you are a solicitor or a bookkeeper, you know, every business uses a platform or uses a different platform, a different marketing concept, a different strategy, a different tool that suits them. So anyone that is right at the beginning and saying, I'm seeing no results, you're doing the wrong stuff, go and find someone to help you look at your business and what might work for you and try something new. If you're a little bit down the line and you're stuck and it's not bringing you results, you're still doing the same stuff. And if you're further down the line and you're not seeing results, you're doing the wrong stuff. That's all I can say.
Yeah, definitely. I'll agree with that. And this is one of the many great things about having a mentor, is that a mentor, depends who it is, but a mentor isn't just there to show you what to do or specifically to teach you what they do. That is a part of it, yes, but one of the greatest benefits about having a mentor is that they have an external perception. They're observing you. And so as humans, you know, we're creatures of habit, and so we repeat these loops over and over and over. And the mentor, if they're a good mentor, will analyze that and go, buddy, do you realize that you're doing this, this, and this, and that's actually sabotaging your results? And when they say that and you look at it, you know, if you can face the truth, that is, you'll go, huh, I never thought about that, but now that you raise it, it's really obvious. And so you stop doing it. And then they'll tell you, okay, now focus on this, this, and this. And so you go and do that. And then you'll start getting an outcome. And once you've adapted and you've evolved and you're getting the results, you'll go, huh, that's kind of funny, because maybe they didn't teach me anything new, but what they did was teach me what to stop doing and what to focus on. And that's one of the greatest benefits, is that, you know, a mentor is not supposed to bring some magic pill to the situation that's going to fix all your problems. He or she is there to analyze you and not just improve you by adding something or focusing on something, but also specifically removing parts from your mindset and from your patterns and your habits, let's call them, and in that you will improve, and from that you will get results. So just wanted to add that.
Cool, that's really brilliant. I'm just looking at the time and we're over the hour because you've talked so much and I've talked so much, and it is really great stuff. One
Yep.
question that there's two questions that I've been looking at that I potentially wanted to look at, but obviously we need to be aware of the time. One is that people are saying, well, how would you advise people to market, which I think we've sort of covered in all of these different ideas, that it isn't, and you can't really say you need to go on Facebook and do this. What
Mm.
you really need to do is look at, well, who are you, who's your business, who are you serving, who are you helping. Now
Mhm.
look at how you're best going to reach out and get those people and get in front, because to me there's two things that a business needs. You need a good product or service, and you need to
Mhm.
get that good product or service in front of the people that want it and that are going to get value from it. And it's that
Yeah.
second bit that is the hurdle for everybody. The good product or service, if you haven't got one, you're not in business, so we don't need to talk about it. But getting in
Yes.
front of the people, but I don't believe that you can actually say to people, this is the way to get in front of people. There are some strategies, there are things, like pay-per-click, there is Facebook ads, there is networking, all of this stuff, but each
Yep.
one works for somebody different. So I don't think when people ask that question, how do you market your business, or how would you
Mhm.
advise other people to market their business, I think you
Mhm.
could tell them how you market yours, you could give advice, but would it be the answer for everybody? Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Where that question comes from is the thing we were speaking about before, where people are looking for some magic pill or push button, or Nick, what's your little trick as such? Because I want to replicate that trick. There are no tricks. So what I can share though and add to the conversation is that my approach to marketing, which is different to advertising, my approach to marketing is always either to locate potential customers or to find a hub or a community of potential customers. So that's a bit vague. Let's say pay-per-click, for example. So if you're using Facebook ads, let's use this as an example, then most people I see will be pushing the wrong message. So they will, for example, get on Facebook ads and they'll have an ad which is about, a feature of their product or their service, and they'll push that because they're thinking about the problem solution from their point of view, right? But people aren't walking around thinking solution, or feature. What they're thinking is problem. So I always use my marketing messages to communicate to an audience based upon the problem. So we identify the elephant in the room as such, and when people see that, there's a connection because you've got their attention because, oh, that's the problem I'm having, and that ad or this landing page or whatever is talking about that problem. Okay, you've got my attention now, I'm engaged. And so from there you can create a segue from the problem to the solution. But you can't just go out and push solution or feature because people don't even know what the solution is. So you're not going to connect with them on that level. You have to start with the problem that they're dealing with, which also communicates that you understand them. And this is a big point because the guys that are out there going, my program is for everyone and anyone, and I guarantee anyone that comes in, can do what I do. That's a crock of shit. It doesn't work that way. Whereas if you're getting down back on a basic, human level and explaining to people that you understand their problems, and you're also congruently demonstrating that you genuinely care about them and solving their problems, then people will connect and they'll pay attention, and from that you can start what we call relationship marketing. And so you're dealing with them on almost like a stretched out funnel. But if you're just trying to push a solution, or you're just trying to force features onto the market, you'll get almost nowhere, and that's the difference. So it doesn't matter which platform I go to or what the advertising mechanism is. I always approach them based upon their problem, and that segues to a solution. So that's me. Now you'll hear a lot of folks up the top talking about, oh, push the free line, push the free line. Now I don't disagree with that. So I'm not trying to argue. And yes, it does work for very, very well-known people, but kind of, I won't name names, right? But if you're really, really well known, you could almost put, like dog poo on a sandwich and say, hey, everyone, try this out. It's delicious. And they'll go, all right, well, that person said it, so I'll give it a try. They're missing the guru element, if you will. And so I'm not bashing the free line, but I just personally get a lot more traction and a lot better ROI when I'm out there connecting with people on their level, which is right now they're thinking about problem, and so we discuss that. And sure, I might give them something free or an incentive that leads to the solution, but my original message was never free, because in my opinion, if you're always out there saying free, what you're going to attract is freeloaders, and freeloaders don't often convert into paying customers. If you bring 10,000 freeloaders in, yes, you'll get 0.2% of those that sign up, but that's really wasteful, really wasteful marketing in my sense. Because even though you're giving something away for free, it's costing you to do it, because there's delivery and infrastructure and support and all these things that come with giving something away for free. It's only free to them. It's not free for you to give away. And I'd just rather not do that. So one of the other things Kevin Nations has taught me, less is more. Focus, just like that 90-10 thing, 90%, 10% thing. Focus on the things that are going to produce an outcome or value or a profit, rather than this shotgun approach and churn and burn and just try and stuff a heap of people in there for free and then somehow expect a good percentage to sign up and pay. So yes, it does work. Again, I'm not disagreeing with it, but that's not my approach. So I hope that makes sense. I'll just say as well, I'm not on a time limit here, so if you want to keep going, that's fine, but I just wanted to add that.
Cool. And I love the way that you brought up that about the free, because I mean, I did something at the end of last year or beginning of this year that a lot of people put their hands up in the air and went, Carol, you must be absolutely crazy. I actually closed my Aweber account. I got rid of it. And I got rid of it because I had a lot of people on my newsletter list. I was spending a lot of time writing newsletters and giving free and all of this. But I had the people that either didn't have or weren't willing to pay. They wanted my free stuff because it was great. And and I did a lot of sort of soul searching before I did that, because it was a bit scary to go out there and go, hey, I'm closing my newsletter list. Thousands of people are suddenly going to disappear. I actually wrote out to them all and said, if you want to stay in touch, let me know, because my lists are being deleted. I'm closing my accounts. Because I know for me, the way I attract my clients, the way I make money in my business is by connecting as a person with them. Doing things like I'm doing here with you, hop onto a Skype call or a hangout with a potential client who says, hey, I want to know what you're doing. Quite often that we'll have a quick chat, and I'm not giving free, I'm not mentoring them, I'm not coaching them. We're having a chat about, well, what are you looking for? Where are you in your business? I don't believe in the free session, because that to me is, why give a free session to someone that then goes, thank you very much, you've given me great value, and they're gone. I will include and I will over deliver in everything I do, but I want to know that the people are investing in themselves and they're ready to go. And I find more clients, and it works for my particular business, and perhaps it's my personality it works better for, isn't a newsletter list with 1,000 people that have signed up for a freebie download. It's actually connecting with them, and I'm doing that on Google Plus mainly, and it was and still is Facebook, where I have built a lot of my relationships. But mine aren't through list building. And I think for some people, list building works fantastically. I am not saying do not list build, but for other people, there's alternatives. You know, I'm still list building, but not with a newsletter list through Aweber. Mine is being done a different way now. And I think you have to look at that, and you have to look at the quality. It's like Facebook and, well, anywhere. It's not the numbers that are important, it's the quality of the people you're interacting with.
Yeah. I'll revert back to the post that's on my wall from the other day. Remember how I was cryptically explaining there's this new formula for IM 3.0, and what's amazing about that thing is that there's a bunch of us around the world, basically because we're perceptive and we're using business ethics and true value adding, that even though we got the IM business model to work and profitable, we also had, you know, I guess the nuts to look at it and go, well, part of this is broken, and part of this is actually wrong, and part of this is unethical, and we can see that clearly. But to a lot of people in the industry, they don't care about that stuff because it produces money. And if your focus, no matter what you say about money, if your true intention, your focus is just about money, you're only in this industry to make money, then you won't see those things, whereas we do, and we care about our customers. And so we've had to adapt. And what happened is that we've created this hybrid model. But the funny part is that we never shared it with each other. We kept it a complete secret from different sides of the world. And as I said, I'm getting back into business and the spotlight now, and I'm reconnecting with people around the world. And, you know, like my buddy Rosh Khan is a good example. You know, we haven't caught up in months. We used to be, you know, tight, thick as thieves, chatting every single day. And then we had this long period where we just went in completely different business directions, right? And I've been on hiatus, and we've come back into communication again. And because we're tight, we share. There's no secrets amongst us. We share everything, and he's sharing his thing, and I'm sharing my thing. And it turns out that even though we went in different directions, we've come back to exactly the same point, and we have exactly the same business model right now that we've been working on for a while. It hasn't been rolled out, but the relevance is this: part of this new IM 3.0 thing, which is truly about evolution and ethics and value adding, not just the perception of it or using those buzzwords. I mean, truly caring about your audience and doing things a better way. And I'll also add, that means we're going to make less money. That's okay. We don't mind reducing our sales conversions and our profits because we're coming at it from an ethical point of view. But the whole squeeze and list building and market to people over and over, I'm not saying that doesn't work or that's wrong. If people want to do that, and people do that, then that's fine, okay, that's your thing. But we've chosen not to do that, and so our new approach is not list building. You know, as people say, oh, the money's in the list, the money's in the list. Okay, that's great, but that's because your focus is money. That's not our focus. You know, it's like the third or the fourth priority. We're focusing on it from a community building aspect. So we're creating hubs now rather than email lists. Now, I'm not saying we're not using email, because we will, but as a notification method to bring people back to the hub and to the community. And so now we're building an audience based upon a community culture. And so that's one of the things that we're doing as well. So it's great to hear that you've gotten away from your list, and this month I'm actually shutting down my list in OAP, and a lot of the clever people in IM have done that exact thing, but you've got to be brave. You've got to be able to truly walk your talk and have faith in your ability to build a community. And you know, a community is, you know, involves many dynamics, but you have to be, you know, a true leader, and you have to really care about your flock, if you want to, you know, or your tribe, as you want to call them. And we're confident doing that stuff. That's the place we come from. So we're happy to do that. And we're also happy to get away from this whole squeezing and constantly pushing affiliate offers and, you know, these guys that do product launches every 2 or 3 months and trail of destruction behind them. We see that happening, and when we're choosing not to replicate that or even be involved with that model and justify it because, oh, it makes money. Okay, there's a lot of things you can do to make money, you know, like there's some really nasty ways to go out and make money, but we don't do them because money was never the focus. The focus is the audience. Problem solvers, like I said all along, we're looking to help people, truly help people.
And I think that is a really important bit that, you know, you've brought up there. One of the things that a lot of people are, and I think a lot of people are starting to recognize it. I mean, for those people that are listening in that are wondering, well, what's IM 3.0? What's he talking about? Internet marketing 3.0, as in the way internet marketing has been done and has been out there for a while. We're talking about that as being not 3.0. 3.0 is the new way. And in a way, the new way to me is actually the old, most traditional way. It's the authentic, genuine way of doing business, which is real people helping real people. And then we got the internet, and we got all of the internet marketers and people jumping on the bandwagon. A lot of the time, people that had no idea what they were doing, but they picked up a program and then they went out and tried to teach other people the program because that was a great way to make money, and you set up files, and there was a lot of BS and hype, and we know about that. And luckily, a lot of the little people, and when I say little people, I'm not looking down, but I mean the people who are not financially and emotionally secure, and they are desperately looking for ways to get that security, get that success. They have been burnt, and they're still being burnt, but I think people are starting to realize and understand. And I've seen some of the previous IM people who were using a lot of those BS and the hypey tactics. I've actually seen people who have openly come out and said, okay, I'm out of there, I don't want this anymore because I don't feel good. And I think the really genuine people, yes, they were there and they were making good money, but they're no longer wanting to be classed as that group of people, because it isn't about just making the money. And I know some have found it quite difficult to get rid of their name as an IM that was classed with all of those yucky, icky snake oil ones. And there's still, to me, snake oil, there's still the bullshit, the hype. And I'll say bullshit because it is midnight in the UK, so we're not in daytime savings with kids. But, you know, and I think when you said there about building your tribe, and it's not just about an opt-in form and giving something free, those processes do work for certain businesses, and they do work for some people if they can follow it up and take the action. For other people, it's a different way. And I love that you said that you're building a community. You didn't say tribe, you said a community. And I think, you know, some people find it very hard to build a community, but actually building a newsletter list full of people that want free stuff, you're just wasting time and energy. You need to be looking, and that community could potentially be very, very small. It doesn't have to be thousands. You know, you don't have to go for numbers, because each one of us, yes, we can leverage and we want to scale by one to many instead of one to one all the time, but you don't need tens of thousands of people following you for you to be able to make a massive difference. If you want it, a massive income and real success, because we have billions of people in the world, but you only need a tiny, tiny little chunk of those people to help.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin Nations, you know, makes this distinction that you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with, and specifically who you're attracting, because if you, for example, or someone out there is feeling frustrated or disappointed that they're, let's say, surrounded by tire kickers or time wasters, that's a valid emotion, but you have to look at what did you do to attract and surround yourself with those people, And if you can face that and accept that, of course, you've got the power to then change it. But I think somewhere it becomes like a popularity contest, and we're trying to attract large numbers, and there's no screening, there's no quality control, no qualification. People are just coming in, and for example, if you're out there pushing the free line, you're going to surround yourself with freeloaders, and then when the time comes that you need to make money, of course you're going to be ticked off and frustrated, thinking, why won't anyone, pay for my stuff? It's because you surrounded yourself with freeloaders. Whereas, if we look at the business world, you won't find, sales executives, for example, and sales managers surrounding themselves with people that aren't in a position to buy their product or service. They're out there constantly generating leads, qualifying people, and focusing on the 10% of those people who have the ability and the capacity to become clients, and they focus on them. So it's super important. Yeah.
And I think also, because you were saying there about you surround yourself with the freeloaders and the free pool, I call them free pools. But I think also, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you can get into the mistake of educating your audience to expect free. Sometimes it's our fault, and I know I've done this in the past, and I see I've seen people, actually, some people on Google Plus who have a massive following. They give out great stuff. They are first there to share something new. But I also know in the background that they don't know how to turn that into money, because they have educated people. I give you all this stuff, follow me and you'll get all this stuff. And they get stuck because, oh my goodness, how do I get these people to now pay me? Because I've been giving it. And I think, that giving the value, because you need to build people and you need to give them the evidence that, yes, you know what you're doing. You have to be able to show people that, and that you know your stuff. But when you go too far, you actually have to take responsibility for the fact that you have educated the audience you have built to not pay you, because you've never asked them to pay you. You're just giving them loads of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, there's I can't remember who.
Talking, because I have to disappear for 20 seconds.
Go for it. Okay, so I'll just elaborate on what Carol was saying there, and I can't remember specifically who taught it to me, but somewhere along the way I was taught the notion of training your customers, and whether you do it intentionally, unintentionally, you're aware of it or not aware of it, we are actually training our customers, or let's just expand on that and say our community. We're training them to do certain things by demonstrating and leading by example. So it's not it's like children, right? They don't do what their parents tell them to do. They do what their parents do. And so it's like, a leader situation, role model situation. So you've got to be completely aware of how you're training your customers or your leads or your community, and be cognizant of that, because if you're training them to be constantly freeloading, and you're training them to have a sense of entitlement and just take, then you're setting a precedence there, and you're training them and demonstrating that this is acceptable behavior, so they will fill that role. And so you've got to be very aware of how you're training your audience. And so then well, not the solution, but a solution to that is by training people, for example, to buy. And you can do that in baby steps, like the Warrior Forum, the WSO crowd. I don't know if they realize it or not, but they're really good at this notion, because they're training their customers with baby steps. So they bring them in, say, for a $7 offer, and then they'll upsell them to a $19 offer, and then to a $47 offer, and then a $97 offer. And that's, we call that an ascension model or an upsell model, which it is. But what you're actually doing is training people to buy, and it's best sometimes if you train them to buy something that is, you know, like low risk or low price point. And so I'm not saying you've got to go out and sell $9 products, but their intention was always to sell a $97 product. But rather than just go out and market that $97 product, they trained their audience to buy the $7 and the $9 and the $19 and da, 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 da. So again, just be very aware of how you're training your customers and what you're demonstrating is acceptable behavior, because as the leader, they will follow what you do. They won't listen to what you say, they will do what you do. So just be very aware of that. And there's nothing wrong with asking people to purchase. There's nothing wrong with giving them the opportunity to buy. That's different to convincing someone or selling something to someone that they didn't want. So don't get them mixed up. They are different, but there's nothing wrong when there's an exchange of value. Here's what I'm giving to you, and here's what you're giving to me. There's nothing evil in that at all. But as long as there is an exchange, a true exchange of value, not just, you know, the snake oil salesman justifying it like, oh, it doesn't matter if I fake screenshots and I lie about things because, you know, they're getting value. That's him justifying his own sneaky practices. So think about your audience. Think about it from their point of view, but be very mindful of what you're training them to do. And if you're always giving stuff away and you're training them to take, that's exactly what they will do.
Absolutely. And it's fair. It is quite hard if somebody is not yet at this level. It is hard to begin with because they're looking for social proof. That, you know, you said that when you're looking for people to help you, you need to have be able to evidence that you walk your talk, that you have great customer testimonials and things like that. And a big question I get asked a lot is, but I don't have that yet because I'm only just starting, or I'm just reinventing something new. So of course I don't have all of that. And I think,
yep,
you know, yes, you need to build that, but you have to still go out and take the first steps. And I think for some people, and like I say, whether they're right at the beginning of a business or whether they are reinventing, because you said earlier, you know, we always are reinventing or creating a new product that won't have anybody that's bought it yet or anything like that, and it won't have loads of social proof, and it won't have loads of testimonials and feedback, but you take it step by step. And I think some people try and dive in, and and partly because, especially if in the internet marketing world, because they have been sort of told this rubbish about you can make $1 million overnight. Now, some people can make a lot of money in a very short time. Other people, it actually takes, you know, to be an overnight success. Look at somebody like Oprah. You know, it took her about 10 years. It takes people years to create overnight success. It's just that nobody hears about you until you go, boom, I got it.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So I think people have to learn to be patient as well, and start looking at every sale you make, every person that you help. That is a massive success. Start celebrating the little steps. Don't keep looking for what you don't have and that big pot of gold, or that big number of people joining your program or saying they want to work with you. Look at it one step at a time, and every single customer or every new customer, every slightly different customer, that is an amazing success, because there's a lot of people out there who have absolutely none. So don't always, you know, to me it's also about, don't always look at what you perceive to be the big guys and what they're saying. Some of them will be telling you the truth. Some of them will be completely full of rubbish, and in the background they've got no car, no home, nothing else. We don't know because we're only looking online. But
Yep.
don't compare yourself with who you think is successful, because quite often those people actually would much rather be like you are, and each customer you help is a massive success.
Yeah.
Did that make sense? I'm not quite sure how that fitted in with what we were saying, but it came out, so I said it.
You know, that it's definitely a good point, and I'll use, you know, myself as an example there, where you know, I'm about to release my webinar masterclass this month, so we've got 2 weeks until it's open to the public. And as I mentioned, I've spent the last year and a half building that and developing it. But specifically, I've already done 2 beta programs of this, and so I've put more than 100 marketers through my program, because that's my that's my ethical obligation to the business community. I'm not one of these snake oil guys that's, you know, basically copying what someone else has done, wrapping it up in a push button magic pill product launch, selling it for a few weeks, and then, you know, closing the doors. I've been out there truly investing into this program, into the knowledge, refining it, polishing it, and I've also tested it with people, and that was, yeah, great. I got testimonials from that, and they will assist in the campaign as such, but that was never the driving force. It was always about, look, I believe in this product, and so I need to make sure that other people believe in this product and it's proven before I go out to the market and I sell it. And, you know, there's this saying out there that some people use, which is fake it till you make it, and I completely disagree with that approach. I think that that's a completely irresponsible way to operate as a human being, and especially if you're in this, you know, business of being a leader or an educator, because you're selling false hope and you're stealing people's dreams, and it's the blind leading the blind as well. So, you know, you just mentioned a lot of people up the top, even though they appear to be wealthy or to own assets, really they're not. They're living month to month, and I know this for a fact. I've met a lot of people up the top that I used to think were gurus, and I visited their homes and I listened to their stories, and they divulged their real problems, and I realized, oh man, you've been feeding your ego this whole time and perpetuating this image of success to prop yourself up for starters, and also make money. But what you don't realize is that people have been taking you on face value, and really they're broke and they don't have real businesses, and they don't even have marketing knowledge. That's the bizarre thing about the internet marketing industry, is that yes, there are a lot of really clever people, I admit that, but up the top there's a lot of people that don't actually even understand marketing, and all they're doing is reciting something that they've stolen from someone else. There's no fundamental knowledge or experience there. And so I don't mean to judge. What I'm saying is that when I learned that, I came to the realization you can only depend on yourself, and you really shouldn't follow people. And I know there's people following me, but I'm not in this for the, you know, like for the popularity. It's not to boost my ego or to prop up my sense of self-worth. If people choose to follow me, then great. I hope and pray that I can enrich their lives and I can deliver true value, but I only depend on myself, all right? And I don't follow people. Yes, I have a mentor, and there's a dynamic there and a capacity and an exchange of what's happening, but I depend on myself, and that's why I approach things differently and I do things differently, and why, you know, often I'll come to the market, say like with the last example with FBX, I came to the market with something that no one else knew, because I had to go out and figure that out for myself, because when I wanted to find a leader or an educator or someone that knew truly what they were doing with Facebook marketing, there was no one out there. And I bought the programs, I paid those people, and none of them knew anything of substance. They were all reciting the same thing that they'd all found free on the web. So I had to own that, I had to rely on myself, and I had to go out and truly find what worked. And when I did that, now there's all these people going, hey Nick, you figured it out, you know, how do you do it? Okay guys, here it is. So it's about self-reliance, and also being smart enough to know that in a make money industry, it's always going to attract sharks and snake oil salesmen, because they see, you know, why people are coming into this, and they also see this pattern of, you know, pretending to be the guru, and, you know, sitting in a Ferrari or something that they've hired, you know what I mean, and going to resort, hey, look at me, and it's all a facade, it's all engineered. So, but what I will say is that, to support and reinforce what you were saying before, the internet marketing community specifically right now in 2013 are very, very savvy. They're very, very educated. Some of them are completely jaded as well, and I don't blame them for that, right? But people now are very, very educated, because it's not like 5 or 6 years ago where, the gurus could just, release anything and people would consume it and buy it and gobble it up. And, those same guys now will admit in public that their business model doesn't work anymore, or their launch formula or their campaigns do not produce anything close to what it used to. And they sit around scratching their heads going, I wonder why, I don't know why. But there's many factors, but a big driving force is that, you can fool people, you can fool some of the people a lot of the time, but I don't know how that goes, but you know what I mean? Basically, you can't... Yeah, that thing, I can't remember the saying, but that's what it comes down to, is that people have been lied to and swindled and fooled too many times now, plus they're educated enough, because there's this silly thing in internet marketing where we sell our commercial secrets to our customers. You don't find that in the business world. There's no other industry on earth that sells their competitive secrets, the keys to the castle, to anyone and everyone. And so again, the market out there, the audience in IM is savvy now, and they're educated, and they're very reluctant just to pay someone, $1,000 because he's well known, and you've got to adapt to that. And this is what we're talking about with IM 3.0. We recognize this, we see this, and we intentionally distance ourselves from those people, and we take a different approach now, which is, less is more, just really caring about people. And like you said, going back to the traditional business model, which is care for your customers, do a good job, deliver value, and take care of them for the cycle of the customer life, instead of just product launch, take the money, close the doors, walk away. Product launch, take the money. So some guys, and you people know what I'm talking about, there's still guys out there that are like literally unbalanced in the head, because they think they're smarter than everyone else, and they keep doing this, yet the results drop, but they just keep doing it over and over. And that's the great thing about where we're at now, is that they'll never get IM 3.0. They never ever will. What they'll end up doing is leaving the industry and look for another, industry that's got a bunch of dreamers that, will just hand over their money, and they'll replicate the deception formula. They don't have a business formula, they've got a deception formula. Whereas us back here, we care about our reputation, and we care about, our customers and what people say. And in doing that, we're approaching it from a purely ethical point of view now. And if that harms our profits and our sales conversions, we've got no problem with that. We can live with ourselves. That's the point. You've got to have a conscience. It's not just business ethics. You've got to have a conscience. And some people don't. And again, it's part of the make money industry. It's attracted sharks, and they get a result, so they perpetuate it. But that's them. It's not us.
Yeah, and I think that is, I'm seeing, I don't think it'll ever die, because there's been sharks around, there's been con men around since the caveman's day. Out there, you go for a walk
Correct.
down the street, you will find somebody who wants to scam you, somebody who wants to take your money and give you rubbish in return. It's not just limited to internet marketers, but when you online, you get into all of the internet marketing, and people are sort of saying, oh, all of this awful stuff online. Well, actually, it's been around for years. It's still around. You're seeing people being conned for thousands of dollars and thousands of pounds out there offline. So this is not only online. It's just it got easier for people to do it online because of the reach to more people. But now we're going back to this traditional, which, I say that we're going back to the most traditional way that we have ever worked, and the most effective way in a technology-driven world. And I love it, because people now, obviously I'm a Hangouts person, and people can really see who you are. They can see your body language, they can see your face. With me, they can see my teddy bears, and I love teddy bears. Because you can only for so long on this environment pretend. And at some stage, people can be slick, they can put all this pretense out there, they can be faking it till they make it. At some stage, they're going to slip up. And I think more and more people are looking harder at, well, who is this person? And luckily, buyers are beginning to get more intelligent. And I'm not saying that they're stupid, but there has been a big thing of buyers blame, and there are the snake oil people, but I
Yep.
find that the buyers have to take responsibility as well, because
Yes.
before you pay for something, and yes, you can get caught out, and yes, you can get burnt, and you can spend your money on the wrong thing for the wrong reasons because you think somebody is great. I'm not saying that you can always get it right, but you have
Hmm.
to take responsibility to stop dreaming and start living realistically and think, okay, this is the help I need to get me to the next level of my business. Now I need to go and find someone that can give that help to me, instead of thinking, there's another shiny object and there's a magic button and they've said I can get all this money. If you believe that, you're going to get rubbish. So,
Hmm.
and I think taking responsibility both from a supplier perspective and a buyer's perspective
Yep.
really important. That would be one of my biggest tips for people is, you do need help. You cannot do anything on your own. Even if you're the main person in a business, you will need to outsource, or you will need systems or automation, or you need a mentor. There's all these things that you do need. None of us do anything on our own, but think carefully about, what do you actually need and what are you going to invest your money in? And remember that your clients and potential clients should be asking the same questions.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So let's go over, because I'm looking at the time thinking, I'm here talking really loudly and it's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, and I've got two young lads that are probably trying to get to sleep because they've got to get up in the morning and go to work. I don't. One question that I thought, and you've sort of touched on it. I mean, somebody did ask about what did the FBX. We're not going to worry about that. Because we don't need to go into that. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and it was about Facebook, and it was a program, and Nick was known as Mr. FBX. So that's that.
Yep.
Very, very quickly answered for people.
Yep.
You've touched on this one. Some people are saying, what is next for Nick? Now, you've just touched on the fact that you have a webinar masterclass. Was it masterclass you said
Yes.
coming out? Is that
Yep.
what's next for Nick, and where you're going to be focused on going forward in 2013, or is there something else?
It's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. It's not that webinars are what's next, because I've technically been relying on webinars as my business vehicle and my method of cash flow since the start of 2011. That's the whole reason why FBX did so well, is because I was out there presenting webinars every single week. That combined with the fact that I was releasing systems and knowledge that were not present at that time. But the whole reason why I'm focusing on webinar marketing as my topic in terms of being an educator and being an information marketer is because that's the most beneficial, that's the most valuable thing that I can share with the world right now, or last year, or the year before. And again, I've spent 1.5 years building this, so this is now the culmination. And while people are running around talking about apps and Pinterest and like basically shiny objects, what's new, what's the latest fad, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. People, you got to do what works for you. But I had to make an ethical choice of what's going to be my niche, what's going to be my platform, what is the main topic that I'm going to deliver and share with the world, based upon the value, based upon the outcome and the benefit for my audience. And if you truly care about that, then you will do the best thing possible. And so, as a comparison, I could possibly make a lot more money if I was out there talking about Pinterest right now. But because that's not the motivation, and I also know that Pinterest isn't going to make you rich. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of women pinning cupcakes and photos of Gucci bags and shoes to waste time and to share pin boards. It's not like a community of raving marketing buyers and business people. You've got to understand what each platform is for. And just like social media, it's social by definition. It's not professional media, it's not commercial media, it's social media. So even though years ago I was known for Facebook marketing and I was advocating Facebook, it was for a very specific reason, whereas now my focus, is on purely for entrepreneurs and business owners. And so based upon that, I don't use Facebook for that, and I don't recommend Facebook for that. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. Yes, you can still get it to work, but it's not the most beneficial way that I know. And so what is the most, productive, beneficial, valuable thing that I know that I can use and that I can teach to others? It's webinar marketing, because, in the context of the IM world, some of them are starting to talk about it now, for example, but if you go back to 2011 when I started building the program, I had real results and real experiences and case studies with huge numbers in that space. But when I looked around, I realized that no one was teaching it, but everyone up the top was actually using it. So just like Rich Sheffrin says, it's true, the gurus are keeping the best stuff for themselves. Even though it's in plain view and people are on webinars, it never occurred to them that that was the main driving force behind their business and their cash flow. And a couple of guys have come out now and admitted it, which is great. And webinars aren't for everyone. It's not push button. It's not easy. It's not a fad at all. It's what we're doing right now. It's about communicating directly with your audience and being congruent in your message and truly providing value. It's not this push button, automated, passive, make money while you sleep type thing. It's not that at all. But I don't know anything else on earth that comes close to getting the results and the outcomes and the ROI and the sales conversions that webinars do. And so that's why I'm advocating it and sharing it with the world.
Excellent stuff. And for me, of course, webinars, and if people are listening and going, but hang on a minute, Carol's talking to a guy who's talking about webinars, and Carol's sitting there and she's the girl that teaches everyone Google Hangouts rather than the webinar software. But a webinar is, and I love what Sherry Rose from the Webinar Way always says, a webinar is a web seminar. It's not about necessarily the software you use. I prefer Hangouts because they fit to me a lot better than GoToWebinar with PowerPoint slides and my voice. But the webinar, and I'm making an assumption here because I haven't yet seen Nick's core program, but everything is to do with strategies and how to actually talk to people, how to position your programs or your products, how to look at benefits and things like that, which will cross across different software platforms, I'm assuming. So if anyone's listening, I just suddenly thought, hang on a minute, people hear me saying, I don't like GoToWebinar, and Nick's talking about webinars. Webinars don't have to be on a GoToWebinar platform. There's a lot of strategy and all of the stuff behind them that will work for people on a variety of platforms. For some it will be GoTo, for some it will be Hangouts, for some it will be something else. There's all sorts of different ways to run webinars out there. So I just wanted to bring that up to sort of say to people, if they're thinking webinars, I thought webinars were on their, webinars are not on their way out and never will be. The way people do them and the way they build the real strategies, which a lot of people have not been learning and have no idea how to do, is really going to be really useful for a lot of people who want to get out there and market, because it's engaging with people. It's that. Yeah.
It is, and I love Sherry. She's such a cool person to talk to. We did an amazing interview last year. She asks the best questions, but it's very true. It's not, even though my webinar masterclass is specifically about everything to do with webinars, not just hey, here's how to script a webinar, or here's some magic formula that worked once and is going to work for everyone else. It's holistic. So I cover everything from concept to design, to storyboarding, to delivery, to sales conversions, the underlying platform and technology, plus how you actually need to present and project yourself on the webinar, vocal tone, content. There's a bunch of different things. But so that's the mechanism, the method as such. But really, it's only one part of what we are doing, which is public speaking, okay, and directly engaging with our audience. So whether you're using GoToWebinar or Procaster or Google Hangouts, it honestly, it doesn't matter. Each has their own advantages, right? So I'm not saying they're all created equal, but it's still the same driving force. What are we trying to do here? Congruently project ourselves and to allow people to see the real us and give them in real time a way to interact, not just stand on a soapbox and broadcast and just push our message out. Education is one part of it, but just like we're doing now, you and I are interacting, and then the audience is interacting, just like in GoToWebinar. They ask their questions, and we're providing solutions, and we're giving answers, and that's one of the great things I love about broadcast marketing in real time, is that it gives me an opportunity to listen to my audience and what their problems are, and then provide a solution, because that was always my intention. That's, again, why I'm here. I'm a solution provider. I'm here to solve problems. I'm here to help people, and this is a mechanism that allows me to do that. So again, webinars aren't a magic pill. There's there's a lot of work that goes into it, but if your driving force is solution providing, but also leverage, you can do this thing now and reach many people. It's great for that. It's great. Yeah. And strangely enough, even after all my years of public speaking on stage, and I'm pretty good at public speaking, I've won many an award about being in a multi-speaker environment and getting the best reaction, getting the best feedback, making the most sales. So I know that makes me sound not humble, but I'm pretty good at that stuff. But yet still to this day, my sales conversions on stage don't come close to my sales conversions with webinars. So there you go.
There you go. So that is really great stuff. And how will people actually find out? Obviously this is not a pitch thing at all. That's not what tonight is about. But how can people find out? Will there be a link that we'll be able to share in the event when that's ready to come out, or do they just look for you on Facebook or Google, or where can they sort of connect with you more?
Okay, so for those of you that are watching right now, or even the replay, because I'm guessing this is recorded and goes to YouTube or something, probably the best thing is just keep it here in Google Plus, okay? Because I'll be spending more time over here on this platform, and so just how does it work, Carol? They add me to their circle, or because like on Facebook it's different, we friend each other, and on LinkedIn you make a connection. So however it works, you can tell I don't know much about Google Plus, I'll admit it, but however this stuff works here on this platform, whether it's YouTube and you subscribe, or it's Google Plus and you add me to your circle, whatever it is, just do that, and I promise in the coming weeks that I will disseminate the information and the campaign on this platform, so that you can then come into the campaign and the funnel, let's call it, and watch that content and make a decision for yourself. Yeah, that'd be great.
Fantastic. That is brilliant. So and obviously, yes, this will be a replay, so people will hear that if they listen to the replay, and we can also put it into the description and into the event description. I can go over comments in there to say if you want to know more, then just circle Nick and keep your eye on what's going on over on his Google Plus stream.
There you go. Simple enough.
There you go. It's easy peasy.
Great.
Well, I want to say a massive thank you to you, Nick, for spending 2 hours of your time with me here on air. I have really enjoyed it. I could keep talking to you all day, but I think we have to stop at some stage, don't we?
Good. Okay.
Yeah. We both probably need a toilet break, and we need to go and get a drink, and your dogs probably need a walk, and my dogs have probably gone to bed.
All right. Well, look, thank you very, very much for having me, for starters, and for everyone that's put in the questions. I truly hope that that's been of value. I'm the same. I could talk about this stuff for days, but let's wrap it up for now, and perhaps maybe consider in the near future coming back for part 2, and we can talk about some different things and answer some different questions because I love this dynamic of whether it's an interview or it's a multi-speaker presentation, whichever way we want to look at it. I truly enjoy this setup, and it is actually a lot more fun being on. I'll admit it, right? It is actually a lot more fun doing a Google Hangout than it is doing GoToWebinar, because it's like you're talking to a wall doing a webinar, because you don't hear anyone, you don't see anyone, and they don't see anything either, except for a static screen with a PowerPoint. So I'm definitely going to be spending more time here on G+, and hopefully you can teach me more about Hangouts. And yeah, we'll come back to this soon.
Excellent. Okay, now's the time where you have to put a really cool smile on your face as I end the broadcast and it goes on to the countdown until we come off air. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Nick.
Yep.
And we're going to end the broadcast. Keep smiling.
Thanks again.